The heat is a living thing. It crawls across the black volcanic sand of Peleliu like a predator, shimmering above the broken coral ridges at 115 degrees Fahrenheit. The date is September 15th, 1944. The air itself feels combustible. 34,000 United States Marines are loading into Amtraks, amphibious tractors, preparing to assault an island that intelligence has promised will fall in 4 days. They do not know that the Japanese Empire has rewritten the entire doctrine of Pacific defense. They have stopped dying on the beaches. They have gone underground. General Tadamichi Kuribayashi is not a typical Japanese commander. He has studied in the United States. He has observed American industrial capacity. He has watched the Imperial Japanese Army throw away entire divisions in suicidal banzai charges across Guadalcanal, Tarawa, and Saipan. He has seen his countrymen die in glorious, pointless waves against American machine guns. He has concluded that glory is irrelevant. Attrition is everything. His orders to the defenders of Iwo Jima and the parallel doctrine implemented by Colonel Kunio Nakagawa on Peleliu are explicit and revolutionary. No banzai charges. No fighting on the beaches. No exposed pillboxes. Every man will retreat into the earth. Every position will be fortified in depth. The Americans will be forced to pay for every yard of ground in blood, and the earth itself will become the fortress. The geology of these islands is uniquely suited to this strategy. Peleliu and Iwo Jima are not tropical paradises. They are volcanic nightmares thrust up from the Pacific floor by tectonic violence. The rock is a mix of volcanic pumice, lightweight, porous, filled with gas pockets from ancient eruptions, and coral limestone, compressed over millennia into a substance harder than reinforced concrete. The pumice is deceptive. It looks soft. It crumbles in your hand. But when compressed underground by volcanic pressure and geological time, it becomes dense and heat-resistant. The coral is worse. It is razor-sharp. It shreds marine dungarees and tears open hands. And when naval shells strike it, the coral does not shatter cleanly. It fragments into thousands of jagged shrapnel pieces that are as deadly as the explosives themselves. The Japanese engineers have taken this rock and carved an underworld. On Peleliu, the cave networks descend 5 stories into the Umurbrogel Ridge, a jagged coral spine that the Marines will come to call Bloody Nose Ridge. The caves are not natural. They are excavated by hand, by Korean forced laborers and Japanese infantry with pickaxes and pneumatic drills, working in shifts for months before the American invasion. The scale is staggering. Multi-level galleries connected by spiral staircases carved from solid rock. Lateral tunnels linking independent defensive positions so that a squad can retreat from one firing chamber and emerge 200 yards away in a completely different cave system. Ventilation shafts drilled vertically through 50 feet of stone, allowing air circulation and providing emergency escape routes. Blast doors, fabricated from steel plating scavenged from naval shipyards, installed at critical choke points to seal off sections of the tunnel network. The firing slits are geometrically perfect. Japanese engineers use surveying equipment to calculate interlocking fields of fire. A single cave entrance might have 3 firing slits, 1 aimed down the central approach, 2 angled at 45 degrees to create a crossfire. The slits are narrow, 18 inches wide, just large enough for a Type 92 heavy machine gun barrel to protrude. From the outside, they are nearly invisible, camouflaged with vegetation, set into shadow, angled to avoid direct sunlight. The storage capacity is immense. The deepest caves hold stockpiles of rice, canned fish, ammunition, medical supplies, enough to sustain the garrison for 6 months. Some chambers have freshwater cisterns, fed by underground springs that seep through the porous volcanic rock. There are sleeping quarters, command posts with radio equipment, field hospitals with surgical tables carved from stone, and then there is the natural horror of the environment itself. The volcanic rock on Iwo Jima still vents sulfur dioxide from fissures in the earth. The gas collects in low-lying chambers, creating a choking yellow fog. The temperature inside some caves reaches 130 degrees Fahrenheit from geothermal heat radiating through the stone. Men sweat through their uniforms within minutes. The air is thick, oppressive, tasting of sulfur and salt. But the Japanese defenders know that depth equals survival. They know that American naval gunfire cannot reach them here, and they are proven correct. The pre-invasion bombardment of Peleliu begins on September 12, 1944. The United States Navy assembles a fleet that represents the largest concentration of naval firepower in the Pacific theater to date. Battleships: USS Pennsylvania, USS Tennessee, USS Maryland, USS Mississippi, USS Idaho. Heavy cruisers: USS Indianapolis, USS Louisville, USS Portland. Dozens of destroyers. Carrier air wings flying hundreds of sorties. For 3 days, they hammer the island. The battleships fire their main batteries, 14 and 16-inch guns, hurling shells that weigh up to 2,700 pounds, capable of penetrating 2 feet of steel armor or 30 feet of reinforced concrete. The shells are designed to destroy battleships. They are being used to destroy an island. The sound is apocalyptic. Each 16-inch gun firing produces a muzzle blast that can be felt miles away. The shells scream through the air at supersonic velocity, creating a sound like a freight train falling from the sky. When they impact, the explosions throw up geysers of coral and volcanic ash 300 feet high. The naval gunfire officers are confident. They report that the island is being systematically reduced to rubble. Aerial reconnaissance photographs show the surface vegetation obliterated, the coral ridges shattered, entire sections of the island obscured by smoke and dust. But 70 feet underground, the Japanese defenders sit in the darkness and wait. The shells impact above them. The rock transmits the shockwaves. The pressure is enormous. It feels like being inside a drum that is being beaten with sledgehammers. Dust falls from the ceiling in continuous streams. Support timbers creak and groan. Some of the shallower caves do collapse, burying men alive under tons of coral. But the deep positions hold. The 16-inch shells cannot penetrate. They explode on the surface, cratering the rock, but the energy dissipates. The Japanese engineers have calculated the safe depth. They have built their fortress below the kill zone. A Japanese soldier, a private from Nakagawa's 14th Division, sits in a firing chamber 60 feet underground. His Type 99 Arasaka rifle is propped against the wall. His bayonet is fixed. He has written his final letter to his family. It will never be mailed. And placed it in his breast pocket. He has accepted that he will die on this island. But he will not die easily. He will not die on the beach. He will die in the rock, and he will take as many Americans with him as the Emperor demands. He does not know that above him, the Americans are learning a terrible lesson. That firepower alone cannot win this war. That tonnage and explosive force are meaningless against an enemy who has buried himself in stone. The Americans are going to need something else. They are going to need fire. The first wave hits the beach at 08:32 hours on September 15th. The Marines of the 1st Division, the old breed, veterans of Guadalcanal and Cape Gloucester, expect hell. They expect mortars, machine guns, artillery. They expect to fight for every inch of the beach. They do not expect silence. The Amtraks grind up onto the white coral sand. The ramps drop. The Marines pour out, rifles up, eyes scanning for targets. The beach is empty. The jungle tree line, what remains of it after the bombardment, is shattered and smoking.
I see it. Holding
there are
position.
no defenders. no bodies,
eyes on the beach!
no fortifications. The platoon leaders are confused. This does not match the intelligence briefings. Where are the Japanese? The Marines advance inland. They cross the beach. They push toward the airfield, the primary objective, a flat expanse of crushed coral that the Japanese have been using as a fighter strip. Then, the island opens fire.
Elevation set.
The
Firing
first
pin check.
sound
Pin
is a
secure,
Type
tube clear.
92
Base plate
heavy
stable,
machine
ready to
gun,
load.
7.7mm rounds, the Japanese equivalent of the American .30 caliber, fired at 600 rounds per minute from a position that the Marines cannot see.
Clear the entrance.
The gun is firing from a cave mouth 300 yards to the north, from a slit cut into the coral ridge at a perfect enfilade angle. The bullets chew through the exposed Marine rifle squads like a chainsaw. Men go down in groups. The survivors hit the dirt, scrambling for cover that does not exist on the flat coral. More guns open up. Type 92 machine guns from a dozen different positions. Type 99 rifles from spider holes and camouflaged trenches. Type 97 81mm mortars. The crews are deep inside the caves, firing blind using pre-registered coordinates, dropping shells with terrifying accuracy onto the beach and the airfield approaches. The Marines return fire. M1 Garand rifles crack. Browning automatic rifles hammer away on full automatic. They are shooting at shadows. The cave mouths are invisible. The firing slits are too small to hit. Every time a gun falls silent,
stay sharp.
another one opens up from a
Eyes on the
different
fire.
angle.
Copy. It's getting brighter.
A Marine
Steady.
rifle
Reach on my
platoon
mark.
tries to assault a cave position on the western face of the Brogel. The cave entrance is 10 feet wide, cut into a sheer coral face 40 feet high. The platoon uses standard tactics: fire and movement. A squad provides suppressing fire with BARs and M1s. Another squad bounds forward, using coral outcroppings for cover. They get within grenade range. The grenades are Mark II fragmentation grenades. Pineapples, the Marines call them. A Marine pulls the pin, counts 2 seconds, and hurls the grenade into the cave mouth. It bounces off the interior wall and detonates. The explosion echoes inside the rock. The Marines wait for silence. They prepare to move up. 30 seconds later, a Type 92 machine gun opens fire. Not from the cave entrance they just grenaded, but from a firing slit 20 feet to the left, invisible until the muzzle flash gives it away. The gunner has a perfect line of sight down the entire approach. He sweeps the coral with controlled bursts. 6 Marines go down in the first 5 seconds. The survivors retreat, dragging the wounded. This is not a battle. This is a meat grinder. The caves are invulnerable to grenades. The rifle fire is ineffective. Artillery is called in. 105mm and 155mm howitzers firing from positions near the beach. The shells slam into the ridgeline. The explosions are massive. The coral cracks and splinters, but the caves do not collapse. The machine guns continue firing. By nightfall on the first day, the 1st Marine Division has advanced 600 yards inland. They have secured the southern portion of the airfield. They have suffered over 200 casualties. And the Japanese have not retreated a single yard. The M2 portable flamethrower is introduced on the second day of the battle. It is a desperation weapon. The official designation is M22 portable flamethrower. It consists of 2 cylindrical fuel tanks, each holding 2 gallons of thickened gasoline, 4 gallons total, strapped to a backpack frame. A third, smaller tank holds compressed nitrogen for pressurization. The wand is a steel tube with an ignition system at the tip, a small explosive cartridge that ignites the fuel as it exits the nozzle. The weapon weighs 70 pounds, fully loaded. The fuel provides between 7 and 9 seconds of continuous fire. The effective range is 40 yards under ideal conditions, no wind, level ground. In practice, on the broken coral slopes of Peleliu, the range drops to 25 or 30 yards. The Marine Corps designates specific men as flamethrower operators. They are volunteers, mostly, though some are assigned. They know the statistics. The life expectancy of a flamethrower operator in sustained combat is measured in minutes, not hours. The reason is simple. The fuel tanks are visible. The operator is slower than a standard rifleman because of the weight, and the moment the operator fires the weapon, the moment that stream of burning fuel arcs through the air, he becomes the single most obvious target on the battlefield. Japanese doctrine specifically instructs snipers and machine gunners to prioritize flamethrower operators. Kill the flamethrower, and the infantry assault stalls. A Marine corporal from 2nd Battalion 1st Marines is assigned an M2. His name does not survive in the historical record. He is simply listed as one of the casualties on September 16th. He approaches a cave entrance on Hill 80, a coral knob on the southwestern edge of the Brogel. He is covered by a rifle squad. 8 Marines with M1s, putting suppressing fire on the cave mouth and the surrounding ridgeline. The corporal gets within 30 feet. He aims the wand. He squeezes the trigger mechanism. The napalm ignites. A jet of orange fire sprays from the nozzle. The flame is brilliant, impossibly bright in the harsh Pacific sun. It splashes against the coral face, flowing into the cave entrance. The heat is visible. The air shimmers. The Marines hear screaming from inside the cave, high-pitched, desperate. Then a single crack, a rifle shot. The flamethrower operator jerks. A 7.7 millimeter round from a Type 99 Arisaka has punched through his chest, fired by a sniper positioned in a spider hole 100 yards to the east. The operator falls forward. The fuel tanks rupture. The napalm ignites in a massive fireball. The operator burns alive. The rifle squad tries to reach him. The sniper fires again. A Marine rifleman goes down with a round through the shoulder. The squad retreats under fire, dragging the wounded man. The flamethrower operator's body burns on the coral for 20 minutes before it stops moving. The cave is still active. The machine gun inside opens fire again 15 minutes later, killing 2 more Marines who tried to advance on a different approach. This pattern repeats across the island. Flamethrower operators advance. They fire. They are killed. The infantry assault bogs down. The Marines need armor. They need a weapon that can deliver fire to the caves and survive long enough to do the job. They need the Zippo. The invention of napalm begins in a Harvard University chemistry laboratory in 1942. The chemist is Louis Fieser. He is not a military man. He is an organic chemist, a professor, a researcher who has spent his career studying the synthesis of complex molecules. The United States military comes to him with a problem. Gasoline-based incendiary weapons are ineffective. Liquid gasoline splashes and disperses on impact. It evaporates quickly. It does not stick to targets. The military needs something better. Fieser begins experimenting with thickening agents. He tries rubber. It works, but rubber is a strategic resource needed for tires and equipment. He tries latex. The results are inconsistent. Then he tries a combination of naphthenic acid and palmitic acid, both derived from coconut oil, mixed with aluminum salts. The result is a gel, a thick, sticky substance that looks like petroleum jelly, but burns like the surface of the sun. When mixed with gasoline in the correct ratio, roughly 7% thickening agent to 93% fuel, the napalm creates a substance with terrifying properties. It is adhesive. It sticks to flesh, to wood, to stone, to steel. Water does not extinguish it. In fact, water can sometimes spread it. It burns at temperatures exceeding 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and it burns slowly, over minutes rather than seconds, creating sustained heat rather than a quick flash. The military designates this mixture as napalm, a portmanteau of naphthenic and palmitic acids. Production begins immediately. By 1944, napalm is being manufactured in industrial quantities and shipped to the Pacific Theater. The next problem is delivery. Infantry flamethrowers are too vulnerable. Aircraft can drop napalm bombs, but they lack precision against small targets like cave mouths. The solution is mechanized. The solution is armor. The M4A3R3 Sherman flame tank. The Zippo is a modification of the standard M4 Sherman medium tank, the workhorse of the United States Armored Forces. The base model is well known: 33 tons, powered by a Ford GAA V8 gasoline engine producing 500 horsepower, armed with a 75mm main gun and multiple 30 caliber machine guns, protected by frontal armor 3 inches thick. The R3 modification changes everything. The bow-mounted 30 caliber machine gun, the gun operated by the assistant driver in the right front of the hull, is removed. In its place, engineers install the M4A3R3 flame projector. This is not a simple flamethrower. This is a pressurized system capable of sustained fire. The fuel reservoir holds 300 gallons of napalm inside the hull. In some variants, an additional armored trailer is towed behind the tank, carrying another 300 gallons. The napalm is pressurized using compressed nitrogen stored in high-pressure cylinders. When the operator activates the system, the nitrogen forces the napalm through reinforced hoses to the flame gun nozzle. The nozzle itself is a marvel of engineering. It is a Mark I flame projector, a conical nozzle with an ignition system that uses an electrically fired explosive cartridge. The napalm exits the nozzle at high pressure and is ignited in midair, creating a stream of liquid fire. The effective range is 150 feet. Some crews report ranges of nearly 200 feet under ideal conditions. The flame is not a spray. It is a coherent stream, a river of fire that arcs through the air and maintains its cohesion until it impacts the target. The psychological impact is immediate. A Zippo tank looks almost identical to a standard Sherman from a distance. The flame nozzle is relatively small and can be mistaken for a machine gun. The Japanese defenders see a tank approaching and react accordingly, firing anti-tank rifles and preparing shaped charges. Then the Zippo fires, and the battlefield transforms into hell. Iwo Jima, February 23, 1945. The battle for Mount Suribachi has been raging for 4 days. The Marines have taken the beaches and pushed inland, but the mountain itself, a 550-foot volcanic cone dominating the southern tip of the island, is a fortress. The Japanese have honeycombed the interior with caves and tunnels. 11 miles of underground passages, artillery positions, machine gun nests, command bunkers, all carved from solid volcanic rock. A Zippo tank from Company C, 5th Marine Tank Battalion, grinds up the northern slope of Suribachi. A large yellow letter C is painted on its hull. The crew consists of 5 men: driver, assistant driver, gunner, loader, and commander. They have been in combat for 72 hours with minimal sleep. The tank's tracks churn through the black volcanic ash. The ash is fine, almost like powder, and it gets into everything: the engine, the suspension, the crew's lungs. The slope is steep. The tank struggles for traction. Japanese small arms fire plinks off the armor. Rifle rounds, machine gun bursts. The armor deflects them. 7.7mm rounds cannot penetrate 3 inches of hardened steel. But the Japanese have heavier weapons. A Type 97 anti-tank rifle opens fire from a concealed position 100 yards to the east. The rifle fires a 20mm shell designed to penetrate light armor. The round hits the Sherman's turret and ricochets off with a shower of sparks. The crew inside feels the impact like a hammer blow. The commander's ears ring. The Zippo keeps moving. A rifle platoon provides covering fire. 20 Marines with M1s and Browning automatic rifles, laying down suppressing fire on the cave mouths and firing slits they can identify. The Japanese return fire. A Marine goes down with a round through the leg. The corpsman drags him behind a boulder. The target is a massive cave complex, designated Target 117. Intelligence estimates it houses at least 100 defenders. The cave entrance is 15 feet wide, 12 feet high, cut into the volcanic rock 50 feet above the current position of the tank. There is a natural ramp, a lava flow from an ancient eruption, now solidified, leading up to the entrance. The Zippo angles its bow upward. The driver shifts gears. The tank grinds up the ramp, the engine roaring, the tracks throwing up clouds of ash and pulverized pumice. The Japanese inside the cave know what is coming. They have seen Zippo tanks before. They open fire with everything. A Type 92 machine gun hammers the tank from the cave mouth. The bullets spark off the armor. A satchel charge, a canvas bag filled with explosives, is thrown from a spider hole 20 feet to the left. It lands next to the tank and detonates. The explosion rocks the Sherman, but the armor holds. The tank positions itself 40 feet from the cave entrance. The flame projector nozzle is aimed directly into the black mouth of the tunnel. Inside the tank, the operator checks the pressure gauges. 300 pounds per square inch. The napalm is ready. He flips the safety cover off the firing switch. He presses the button. The ignition is instantaneous. The napalm exits the nozzle under immense pressure. The explosive cartridge detonates. The fuel ignites in midair, a fraction of a second after leaving the projector. The sound is not an explosion. It is a continuous roar. A deep, bass rumble mixed with a high-pitched shriek of combusting fuel and rushing air. The flame is blinding. Even in full daylight, the Marines watching from cover have to shield their eyes. The napalm is burning at over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and at that temperature, it produces light across the entire visible spectrum. It is white hot at the core, transitioning to yellow, orange, and red at the edges, with black smoke boiling off the outer layers. The stream arcs through the air and pours into the cave entrance. It is not a burst. It is a sustained flow. The operator holds the firing button down. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. 15. The napalm splashes against the interior walls of the cave. The gel is adhesive. It sticks to the volcanic rock. It flows down the walls like molten lava. It runs along the floor. It bounces off corners and continues deeper into the tunnel system. The heat is unimaginable. The volcanic rock itself begins to crack and spall. Pieces of stone explode off the walls from thermal shock. The rapid, extreme heating of the surface while the interior remains cool creates massive stress fractures. The Marines outside can hear it, a continuous crackling, popping sound, like a forest fire consuming dry timber. But the true horror is invisible. It is chemical. It is atmospheric. The napalm is consuming oxygen. Combustion is a chemical reaction. Hydrocarbon fuel, gasoline, napalm, reacts with oxygen to produce carbon dioxide, water vapor, and heat. The reaction is exothermic. It releases energy, and it requires oxygen. When 300 gallons of napalm ignite in an enclosed space, the oxygen consumption is catastrophic. The fire does not spread evenly. It follows the contours of the cave, flowing around corners, dripping from ceilings, pooling in low spots. As it burns, it pulls oxygen from the surrounding air. The flame front acts like a massive vacuum pump, drawing air toward it to feed the combustion reaction. In an open environment, outside in the wind, this effect is negligible. There is unlimited atmospheric oxygen. The fire burns, and fresh air rushes in to replace what is consumed. But in a cave, the environment is closed. The air is finite. 70 feet inside the cave complex, a Japanese soldier crouches in a gallery carved from solid volcanic rock. He is a sergeant from the 109th Division. He has a Type 99 rifle. He has 60 rounds of ammunition. He has a canteen of water and 2 rice balls. He hears the Zippo tank approaching. He hears the roar of the flame igniting. He sees the orange glow illuminating the tunnel entrance 70 feet away, around 2 corners and down a connecting passage. He is not afraid. The fire cannot reach him. He is too deep. The tunnel turns twice. The flames will dissipate before they reach his position. He is correct. The flames do not reach him. But the oxygen does not reach him either. The fire is consuming the air. The oxygen content in the gallery drops from 21% to 15% in 30 seconds. The sergeant's breathing becomes labored. He gasps. He does not understand what is happening. The oxygen drops to 10%. The sergeant's vision begins to tunnel. His hands are shaking. His heart is racing, trying to compensate for the lack of oxygen in his blood. The oxygen drops to 5%. The sergeant collapses. His lungs are pulling in air, but there is no oxygen in it. There is only carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and nitrogen. His brain is starving. His consciousness fades. He dies in total darkness, 70 feet from the fire, without ever seeing the flames. And he is not alone. The entire cave system is suffocating. 117 men, spread across 3 levels of galleries and chambers, dying from asphyxiation as the fire consumes the air they breathe. Some of them try to escape. They run toward the cave entrance, toward the light and the air. They make it 10 feet, 20 feet, before the heat forces them back. The temperature at the entrance is over 500 degrees Fahrenheit from radiant heat alone. The skin blisters, the lungs sear. They retreat deeper into the cave, but deeper means less oxygen. They are trapped between fire and suffocation. The Zippo tank fires for 90 seconds. 300 gallons of napalm pumped into a single cave system. When the operator releases the firing button, the flame cuts off instantly. The nozzle stops. The roar ceases. Smoke pours from the cave mouth in thick, rolling black columns. The volcanic rock around the entrance is glowing dull red from the heat. The Marines can feel the warmth from 40 feet away. They wait. They listen. Silence. No gunfire. No movement. No sound except the crackle of cooling stone and the hiss of residual flames. A demolition team moves forward. 4 Marines with satchel charges, Thompson submachine guns, and gas masks. They enter the outer chamber. The heat is still intense, over 200 degrees. The walls are blackened, the ceiling is cracked. Napalm residue coats every surface, still smoldering. They move deeper. The first turn in the tunnel, the second turn. The temperature drops. The air is toxic. Carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, vaporized rock. The gas masks filter some of it, but not all. They reach the third gallery. They shine flashlights into the darkness. Bodies. Dozens of them. Japanese soldiers, dead where they fell. Some are in firing positions, rifles still in hand. Some are piled near ventilation shafts, clawing at openings that provided no air. None of them are burned. Their uniforms are intact. Their skin is unmarked. They died from asphyxiation, from carbon monoxide poisoning, from the simple, brutal absence of oxygen. The demolition team marks the cave as cleared. They withdraw. They report 117 enemy KIA, killed in action. No prisoners, no survivors. The Zippo tank rotates its turret and moves to the next target. The Sherman Zippo flame tank becomes the primary weapon for cave elimination across the Pacific Theater. On Peleliu, Zippo tanks from the 1st Tank Battalion destroy over 250 cave systems during the 2-month campaign. Some caves require multiple attacks. The first assault suffocates the forward defenders, but deeper chambers remain active. The tanks return, fire again, and push the oxygen depletion deeper into the rock. On Iwo Jima, 8 Zippo tanks from Company C operate continuously for 36 days. They fire an estimated 12,000 gallons of napalm into the volcanic rock. The crews work in shifts. The tanks are refueled and rearmed every 4 hours. Some tanks take catastrophic damage. Anti-tank rifles, artillery hits, satchel charges, and are abandoned on the slopes. The crews transfer to replacement tanks and continue the mission. One Marine Zippo tank takes 23 separate hits during the grueling battle. Anti-tank rifle rounds punch through the lighter side armor, killing the assistant driver. A 70mm shell from a Type 92 infantry gun, a light artillery piece hidden in a cave, hits the turret and jams the traverse mechanism. The crew cannot rotate the turret. They fight the tank like a self-propelled gun, pivoting the entire hull to aim the flame projector. The battered Sherman continues operating for 11 more days. The crew fires over 900 gallons of napalm before the engine finally fails. The tank is abandoned near the base of Suribachi, its armor scarred and punctured, its fuel tanks empty. The crew survives. They are rotated back to a transport ship offshore. They are given 48 hours of rest. They do not talk about the caves. They do not talk about the screaming. They clean their equipment and wait for orders. The psychological toll is immeasurable. A Marine rifleman, a private first class from the 5th Division on Iwo Jima, watches a Zippo tank fire into a cave on the northern plateau. He is in a shell crater 50 yards away, providing security for the tank. He has been on the island for 12 days. He has not slept more than 3 hours in any 24-hour period. He watches the napalm pour into the cave. He watches the smoke. And then he hears the screaming. It is not immediate. It comes 30 seconds after the flame stops. High-pitched, desperate, inhuman. Men suffocating in the dark, their brains starved of oxygen, their lungs collapsing, their bodies convulsing in primal terror. The screaming lasts for 2 minutes. Then it stops. The Marine private does not move. He stares at the cave entrance. He is 19 years old. He is from Iowa. Before the war, he worked on his father's farm. He has never heard a sound like that. He has never imagined a sound like that. He does not sleep that night. He does not sleep for weeks. 60 years later, in an oral history interview, he will describe that sound. He will say that it was the worst thing he experienced in the entire war. Worse than the artillery. Worse than the bonsai attacks. Worse than seeing his friends die. Because the screaming was men realizing they were going to suffocate. Men realizing that the rock they trusted to protect them had become their tomb. The smell is its own horror. Napalm produces a chemical stench when it burns, a mix of gasoline, sulfur compounds, and vaporized minerals from the rock. It is acrid and sweet at the same time, coating the back of the throat, getting into the lungs. Add to that the smell of burned flesh, human fat rendering in extreme heat, and the atmosphere becomes physically sickening. Men vomit from the smell alone. Corpsmen hand out menthol cigarettes. The strong tobacco helps mask the odor. Some Marines tie bandanas soaked in seawater over their faces. It does not help much. The Japanese defenders do not surrender. Even when the caves are surrounded, even when the Zippo tanks are positioned and ready to fire, the defenders do not raise white flags. Japanese military doctrine forbids surrender. The Senjin-kun, the military field code, explicitly states that surrender is the ultimate disgrace, worse than death. Some soldiers commit suicide rather than face the flames. Hand grenades pressed against the chest. Officers shooting their men and then themselves. On Iwo Jima, American forces find entire chambers full of Japanese dead, killed by their own grenades in the moments before the Zippo fired. Some try to escape at night. They emerge from hidden exits after dark and attempt to infiltrate American lines. Some succeed in killing isolated Marines before being hunted down. Some are caught in the open and killed by machine gun fire. Some make it to other cave systems and continue fighting. The battle becomes a war of extermination. The Americans do not take prisoners because the Japanese do not surrender. The Japanese do not surrender because their code demands death before dishonor. The cycle feeds itself. By the end of the Iwo Jima campaign, March 26, 1945, 36 days after the initial landing, the Marine Corps has suffered 26,000 casualties, 6,821 dead, 19,217 wounded. The casualty rate is 33%. The Japanese lose 21,800 defenders. Only 216 are taken prisoner, most of them wounded and unconscious when captured. The rest die in the caves. The Zippo tanks are responsible for clearing 73% of the fortified positions on Iwo Jima. The official after-action reports are clinical. Flame tanks proved highly effective against cave and bunker targets. Recommend increased allocation for future operations. The reports do not mention the screaming. They do not mention the smell. They do not mention the psychological cost of using a weapon that kills by suffocation. There is no glory in this kind of warfare. There are no heroic charges, no dramatic bayonet assaults, no last stands with flags flying. There is only fire and stone and suffocating darkness. The Japanese soldier who retreated into his impenetrable cave believed that depth would save him. He believed that 70 feet of volcanic rock was an absolute defense. He believed that American shells and bombs and bullets could not reach him. He was correct. The shells could not reach him. The bombs could not collapse his cave. The bullets could not penetrate his stone fortress. But the Americans did not use shells or bombs or bullets. They used fire. They used chemistry. They used the simple, brutal physics of combustion. And the fire did not need to reach him to kill him. The fire only needed to consume the oxygen, to create a vacuum, to turn the cave into a tomb where the air itself became poison. The M4A3R3 Sherman Zippo was not a precision weapon. It was not a humane weapon. It was a weapon designed to solve an impossible tactical problem: how to kill an enemy who has buried himself in impenetrable stone and refuses to surrender. The answer was asphyxiation. The answer was heat so intense it created a vacuum. The answer was liquid fire that flowed around corners and into depths where conventional weapons could not reach, consuming the oxygen, filling the tunnels with carbon monoxide and toxic smoke, collapsing the lungs of men who never saw the flames. The Marines who operated the Zippo tanks carried that knowledge for the rest of their lives. They knew what the weapon did. They knew how the defenders died. They did not celebrate. They did not boast. They climbed out of their tanks at the end of each day, covered in ash and coral dust and the residue of burned napalm, and they cleaned their equipment in silence. They understood that war had been stripped down to its most primal elements: rock, fire, air, and the desperate, suffocating terror of dying in the dark. The Pacific War demanded this. The Japanese strategy, the decision to fight to annihilation from fortified positions deep underground, created a tactical problem that could only be solved with flame and vacuum. There was no alternative. The caves had to be cleared. The islands had to be taken. The cost of failure was unacceptable. And so the Zippo tanks rolled forward, and the fire poured into the rock, and the oxygen was consumed, and the caves fell silent. 117 men in a gallery on Iwo Jima, 53 men in a chamber on Peleliu, 82 men in a bunker on Hill 362. Thousands of defenders across dozens of islands, dying not from bullets or bombs, but from the simple absence of air. The caves remain. You can still visit them. On Peleliu, the tunnels of the Brogel are open to tourists. The walls are still blackened from napalm. The firing slits still overlook the killing grounds. On Iwo Jima, the caves are sealed, but they are still there. 11 miles of volcanic tunnels where 21,000 men died. The silence is absolute. But if you stand at the entrance, if you look into the darkness, and imagine the fire pouring in, the pressure dropping, the oxygen vanishing, the lungs collapsing in the black, you can understand the horror. You can understand why the weapon was so effective. And you can understand the price of the Pacific. War is not noble. It is not clean. It is not fair. It is fire and stone, and the desperate gasp of suffocating men in the dark. The Japanese soldier retreated deep into his impenetrable cave. He believed the rock would save him, but America's Zippo tanks sucked the oxygen straight from his lungs.